It is working. What I'm going to do now, for anybody who joins later on, or they can't be in the actual webinar, or for some reason the technology doesn't work, they can actually watch it live on YouTube here. Live on YouTube here. Right, which I've just posted. Okay, fantastic. Right, well, so we'll kick off. We're trying to keep these relatively short. We'll try to keep them to about 30 minutes. The idea is really, first of all, of this very first one, to kick off the program, to explain why we're doing this, and to just start the format of how we're going to go on and do these things. And I'm so delighted that everyone's got involved with this beta test, because we're going to spend the next 13 weeks co-creating something incredible. So very excited. It would be very easy for me to say, well, I've got years of experience now. This is the program. Libby's got years of experience now. Together, we've put together a program which we think is definite and complete. And you guys have just got to, just learn it and just adopt it, and then try to improve your entrepreneurial skills with something that we've already found out. What I've realized, that emerging, co-creating things that emerge out of a group, much more powerful. It's way, way better. 50 people who are quite entrepreneurial and in tune with their entrepreneurial instincts and wanting to develop are far more powerful than one or two individuals. So I'm really grateful for people that are involved in this journey with us. Just 30 seconds, for those of you who perhaps don't know me, I'm extremely grateful to have a physics degree from a good university. I went to Oxford University. I worked hard at school. I then decided that I wanted to get into teaching because I thought that was the best way to change the world. I figured if I could change people's minds, I was more likely to be able to have an impact on changing the world. So I've been teaching in some forms, whether it's been students in school, whether it's been professionals in career development, or through the Udemy courses, a number of different things for almost the last 30 years now. So I'm older than I sound. And I just wanted to say how delighted I was to meet up with Libby a while back, when she's been incredibly successful on Udemy too. And between us, we've got over 200,000 subscribers. And when she approached me with the idea of doing something that was focused around helping people get to that next stage in their own business and becoming more effective as an entrepreneur, we decided that it would be an excellent thing to do this program together. And then I thought, well, of course, the 13x4 framework is such a logical thing to do. And I thought, well, why don't we see how well the science of what I've put together and the psychology of what Libby's background is can work together. So Libby, why don't you give anyone who doesn't know you in as much detail as I do, 2-minute summary of your journey and why you're excited about this as well.
Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a psychotherapist and a success coach, or sometimes referred to as a breakthrough coach. And I know it sounds a little odd, because certainly a lot of people don't expect someone in my profession, such as counselling and helping in the medical industry, to be particularly entrepreneurial. But actually, that's a huge part of who I am. I come from incredibly humble beginnings, as you know, Tom. My childhood was a pretty neglectful one, and honestly pretty unhappy. But I decided that wasn't going to define me. And actually, it was going to drive me, and I'll use it daily as the motivation for success and for inspiration, really. And I'm very honest with my personal life, and I think it can serve as a really good source of inspiration for a lot of other people. So I'm very happy to share that side of me as well. So as a psychotherapist, I've always worked for myself in private practice. It was always the plan. And I always knew that that's the road I wanted to go down, because I love the freedom and the liberty that it affords me. And I really feel that I sort of dance to my own tune. And more importantly, it allows me to get involved in amazing projects like this. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited. Really excited.
Fantastic.
And when we hooked up, Tom, I knew it was going to be a great fit.
Yeah, and the most exciting thing is that what we're going to create, I always like to think that what I've already done is pretty good, but it's nothing like as good as what I can create in the future. And this idea of co-creation is kind of a big deal for me, because I'm confident that I've come up with a good framework borrowed from Ben Franklin about the 13-4, and it's worked so well in so many different circumstances. I'm confident it's extremely robust. But what's really exciting for me is that together with all the people in their various perspectives and their various businesses will help us create something over the next 13 weeks, which is going to be something that we're all proud of. And it's quite a different energy I'm trying to create here. And Libby and I are very confident that we can do it, but we're trying to say, look, guys, this is pretty open. We've got the framework of the 13-4. We've got the 4 domains, the mental domain, the physical domain, the metaphysical, and we've got the interactional. Those are fairly solid things. We've got the focus points, and we've got a framework which we're going to take you through in a minute, which helps us talk about these focus points and develop these focus points and apply them in our own way. But the actual meat and drink of this is going to be what you guys find out and what you research and what you discover as you are developing these things, so that every time we do this program, every time we go through a 13-week cycle, the program itself gets better. And that's Absolutely. A regenerative idea, and I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And I can see that we've got a few people in the room there. I'm going to say hi to Zachary as well. He's just joined. Great to have you over here. Where are you in the world, Zachary? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Hold on. I just unmuted my microphone. I am in Overland Park, Kansas. Overland Park, Kansas, in the United States.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow. So
what time of day is it?
It's 9
fairly
o'clock.
Early in the morning there. 9:10. Okay, brilliant. What a way to kickstart your week.
I know. I'm excited.
Fantastic. Well, what we'll do is we'll crack on, because I'm conscious of keeping these things in 30-minute units. One of the things I'll be getting onto in week 3 in the idea of agile results is in order to make ourselves effective, it's all about making sure that we use our best energy to do our best things. And I've found this works incredibly well. If you can work in fairly short, intensive bursts and take regular breaks, then you can go all day. And you can convince yourself that, I can just carry on going until I get this done or this next thing. At 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you're completely exhausted. So I will be getting a lot more into that as we go through the program. But I'm going to crack on now with the idea of trying to get this all done in a 30-minute period, and leave, hopefully, a lot of the best things to come out of the discussions that we will have as we go along. So next thing I'm going to do, I've explained the purpose of this, to create something together over the next 13 weeks, which is going to help anybody become more entrepreneurial, or if they are already an entrepreneur, to develop their success within that field. And I'm going to talk now a little bit about the actual framework that we've created. So there are 4 domains in this. Now I should be sharing my screen, so if you can let me know, guys, can you actually see the screen? Yep.
Yes, I can see perfectly, Tom. Thanks.
Yeah,
great.
I can see it.
So, yeah, lovely. So those of you who know my work know that I like to use the 13-4 as much as I possibly can. And what's great is that the central aspect, usually a review of the whole cycle, means that there's 12 aspects or 12 focus points, which can be broken into 2 6s, 6 2s, 3 4s, 4 3s, lots of different combinations. And the one that Libby and I went for in this entrepreneurship program was perhaps a little different from what some people might have expected. They might have expected it's more about how to do the advertising, a little bit more about how to write copy. Those things are all details, and there's a tremendous amount of stuff out there already on those. I'm not saying they're irrelevant, they're absolutely relevant. And we'll do that, and we'll find that different styles work for different people. But my experience of being successful as an entrepreneur, really the thing that makes the difference is the relationship that people have with themselves and the ability to interact with other people. So we thought, well, the relationship you have with yourself, I mean, it's all about, first of all, how to think. How to be well, the physical aspect of it is really important. And I think that the only reason it's important to be well is so that you can then have your best energy to do the things that you want to do. The metaphysical thing is what the entrepreneurs who are listening to this might be much more familiar with. This is like how to create value out of things, how to look at things that other people look at but see something different. And then finally, the interactional. There isn't a single entrepreneur I've ever met who isn't very good at being with people. So if you think about this, is about sort of mind, body, spirit, and then people. And those are the 4 domains, really. And so each week we're going to go into one of these in detail. And the structure that we're going to use to go through these is something that I call the CREATE framework. And what's nice about this is this gives you a format for how to process each of these focus points. Why do you need to be able to process them? Because you need to be able to talk about them. You need to be able to talk about this to your dad, to your brother-in-law, to your mum, to your sister, to somebody in the street, and understand why you are doing these things. Not because some crazy couple of English guys decided that it would be a good idea to put this together. You've actually got to know why you're doing all these things that you're doing. And you've got to believe that these things, if you follow this framework, are going to be helpful to you. And so what we're going to do over the next 13 weeks is we're going to create the CREATE framework for each of these focus points. And so let me just very briefly go through these. The connection. I'm going to explain this in terms of language. The connection is, if you're talking to somebody about something, you've got to find some way to connect with them. You've got to say something like, well, you know how, and to bring them in with something that they already know about. So I'm going to use it as an example. This week's focus is about noticing everything. And in particular, it's talking about sort of noticing your energy, noticing your feelings, noticing your thoughts, noticing your results, how you're actually getting on at the moment. And the connection is this, well, you know how mindfulness is becoming a bit of a thing these days. Everyone's going on about how mindful is really important. And okay, now that's the connection. There's a way in. Now, whatever your connection is, it's up to you to work out what that is. But there has to be, when you're talking to people and you're talking then to yourself, you've got to have a way to connect what we're doing now with something that exists. So, well, you know how is the results are simply what we found out. It turns out that people who are successful, entrepreneurs who are successful, happen to be particularly good at switching off from the incredible busyness of their daily craziness and going into a place where they can get in touch with their inner thoughts. They can be mindful. They can separate themselves from the craziness of the day. They don't have to necessarily meditate. They don't have to actually necessarily do anything spiritual or do anything that's a particular religious practice, but they have the ability to be able to notice what's going on. And so, and then that's kind of the evidence. And then the explanation will be, well, it seems to me that there's going to be a reason behind this. The explanation is, why is it that people get those results when they're able to switch off? And why is that so important? And then you can go into the science of that, and then you can go into the psychology of that. And what we'll do in a minute is we will take this first week's focus point, noticing, and we'll go into it in a bit more detail. But the idea is there has to be some sort of explanation for these results. If there isn't an explanation for the results, you're not really going to believe them. You're not going to just say, well, listen, Tom said it was okay, Libby said it was okay, I'm just going to do it. You've got to know that there's some science and there's some psychology behind why it's important to notice your thoughts, why it's important to notice your energy. Then the A stands for action. There has to be so that's why we are going to ... So that's why we're going to deliberately, at random times in the week, I'm going to stop you in your tracks through Slack and say, right, stop, notice, what are you noticing right now? How's your energy? How's your feelings? What are you thinking about? How does it make you feel, etc. The tool that we're going to use, one of the tools I use all the time, Libby knows about this, and everyone who's been on my programs knows about this, is the ability to ask yourself a simple question, which is, what would you choose? If you could choose. I'm not saying you can choose. I'm not saying you can choose what energy to have. I'm not saying you can choose what thoughts to have. But if you could choose, what would you choose? And that's a tremendously powerful tool, a tool to bring you to a much more, I suppose, aware state, and to give you the ability to notice.
It's very grounding, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And finally, before I let you get into some more detail about the psychology of noticing, Libby, I said the whole point of it being easy, you're not going to do it if it isn't easy. Why I love the 13-4 framework is that it's the easiest thing to do. Every time you fall right back on it, it's forgiving. It's a really nice, simple, easy way. It's a minimum will system. And so every single focus point, there has to be a connection. There has to be the results of people who've used this, have been successful. There has to be an explanation why. There has to be an action. that we all then have to do as research in the week. There has to be some sort of tool that's going to help us, and sometimes it can be a technology algorithm, sometimes it can be a thought algorithm, sometimes it can be just a simple, very get someone to call you up and remind you of stuff. But overall, it has to be very easy. So, as an example, I'm going to ask Libby now just to talk in the kind of this domain of noticing, this focus point of noticing. What's your experience as as a psychotherapist? What's your experience about its importance, and share a few things with us on that?
Yeah, certainly, Tom. I was really pleased that you mentioned mindfulness, because actually this first webinar, that's exactly what I was planning to bring in. And for me, mindfulness and being mindful is so powerful. I can't tell you the impact, the positive impact it's had on my own life. It's tremendous. And what's great about it is the ease in which you can integrate it into your daily life, so much so that it becomes you. It becomes very much part of you. And like anything, the more you practice, the better you are at it. So just really touching on how to think and how do we learn to notice and be more mindful. So basically, it's all about tuning in to what's going on at the moment, how to be mindful and living in the present moment. I know a lot of people kind of use that term, or indeed we hear it quite a lot. And for a lot of people, they don't necessarily understand really what that means or how to achieve that sort of state of being. And for me, the simplest way to describe it, and indeed to achieve it, is really by paying attention and developing your state of awareness through things such as your senses. That's the best place to start, really. So yeah, it's not about trying to judge your thought processes or influence them or alter them in any way. For this sort of very first foundation stage about learning how to think and how to be more mindful, we're going to really just hone in on how to practice and more practice of training yourself to be more mindful. And I've got a whole, I should point out, I've got a course entirely devoted to this. So anybody who'd like to enroll on that, let me know and I'll give you free access to that. There's a whole heap of tools and diaries and so on and so forth, which is excellent, certainly for people who are just starting out in mindfulness. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, a really good place to start is by noticing your senses. And actually I've got a list of questions here for prompts and so on. Things about emotional feelings and physical sensations and thoughts. And I know we're sort of chasing against the clock, and Tom will vouch for me. I can rabble on for hours on this, but a really important thing I want to get across today is the confusion between thoughts and feelings. And I know it sounds rudimentary, but a lot of people get these two things mixed up. So again, I've got some tables and so on I can share with the group afterwards. But that's a really good thing to take from today, is understanding the difference between a thought and a feeling. And that's really going to help in terms of developing your sense of awareness.
Brilliant. So Libby's got so much great stuff, and not only has she done a course on it, but she's got a tremendous amount of materials that she's going to be posting into the channel for discussion over that. So if you were telling people one thing, because let's try and we will come up with ideas and tasks and things to do, about on a weekly basis, challenges, ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone. But let's say we've agreed that it is a good idea to become more mindful. We've agreed that it's a good idea to notice. We've got evidence that supports a lot of people who are successful, certainly people that are aware, and they've this ability to sort of extricate themselves and go to the helicopter and sort of have a much bigger view of everything. What one thing would you say would be a really good tip? Just one thing, if they could do that before they even read anything else, what could they do?
The best place really to start, I would say. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yep, can hear you. Yeah.
Hello.
Yep, I can hear you. Yep, we can hear you.
Go.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
go on.
Great. Hopefully you can. I'm just going to continue on. So yeah, the very first place to start, the best thing to start with would be to incorporate something very, very simple with regards to mindfulness into your daily routine, like perhaps when you're brushing your teeth, something like that, is just to take a moment and notice your senses and notice how it feels, literally what you're doing with your hands. Notice your breathing, just anything at all that can bring you into the present moment. And it is about just building on your sense of awareness.
Fantastic. Okay. I mean, there's so much we could say about how to do things, and there'll be an awful lot of this in the general discussions in the chat room for sure. One of the things that I want to stress is, of course, at a higher level in some ways and a lower level in others, the importance of noticing as an entrepreneur, noticing opportunities. So when I said notice, I could have just limited it to notice your thoughts, your feelings, your energy, just notice stuff about you. I want to encourage you to think in many ways and noticing everything. So every time you are in a shop, or every time you're on a train, or every time you're in an airplane, I want you to notice the way it's being run. Notice the business model behind it. Notice where there are friction points and things that you don't particularly like, things that kind of always bother you. I mean, we got a silly thing in England, in the UK. For some reason, our toilet seats don't stay on very well. I mean, I work in schools, and I've got a house, and I've got lots of boys, and I'm always having to get new toilet seats, and I'm always having to fix them. It's not, I mean, they're boys, but they're not like crazy boys. So, you know, whenever you notice a friction point like that, you think, you know what, there should be probably a better design for toilets. There should be perhaps a better design for toilet seats. Now, I'm not saying that everything you notice you're going to want to follow up. And that's completely different. But you should get really, really good at noticing friction points in everyday life and thinking of them. Anytime you feel, I don't feel good about that, there's something that's annoying and frustrating about that, right there is a business opportunity. And it might be one you're not interested in following up, but you get really, really good at noticing, and you won't be able to sleep because you'll have so many brilliant ideas of things that you can do. So, right, I just want to say then Libby, so you're going to, well, in general, our double act is this, is that we go through these 6 points. We then, you know, the create framework. We will then, I'll talk a little bit about the science and perhaps a little bit business. Libby will talk a little bit internally about the psychology. We will then have some research and the results. You're going to need to know the research behind what we've done, so we'll be able to post a lot of that out. But also, because it's co-creating, we want you all to think about, how could I explain this better, the importance of noticing? So how could you come up with a connection for yourself? Not so much that you can just talk to people, because of course that's important, but also so you can say it to yourself and make it important to yourself. Then how can you find some results? You can spend 10 minutes Googling the importance of noticing, the importance of mindfulness. You could see which really successful people. You can look at some people and think, you know, you wouldn't want to spend 2 minutes inside their head because it's chaos. I'm thinking of certain world leaders at the moment, and you're thinking, goodness me, I wouldn't wish to be anywhere near that individual's head, but then you look at other people and you think, you know what, I wouldn't mind being them for 10 minutes because it'd be lovely to see how they process things. So you do your own research, you find your own results. The explanation will give you a little bit of the science again, and Libby will give you a little bit of psychology, but it's also, you've got to find ways of explaining this for yourself. The action is simple, to notice everything. The tool that I'm giving you is to just ask, when you're noticing things, to just ask yourself whether you would choose it, because a lot of the time when you've got an energy state, it's happening to you as a result of other stuff, and it's not necessarily in your interest to be low energy or in your interest, but you are, and that's okay. And you just have to separate yourself from it, and we'll get a lot into that when we talk about the script. And Libby's just one simple tool of the many that she's got is just, you know, when you're doing something like brushing your teeth, just pay attention. Just notice how you're feeling, notice your senses, notice how you're breathing. Another one is food. One of my favorite things ever is, as you know, if you followed any of my programs, is the importance of using food as an attention-paying device. And I'm terrible at this, and I need, even me saying I'm terrible at this is reinforcements. I shouldn't say that, but I know that I'm not good at the moment at sort of switching off completely. And so food is a great opportunity. Put your phone down, take all the distractions out of the way, just sit down and just spend, you know, 15 minutes quietly chewing your food. It's fantastic. Absolutely. And all of these things that you, all of these things that you do, they've got to be easy. If anyone comes to you and says, oh, I can make you a brilliant entrepreneur, all you have to do is these 50 million things, you're going to go, oh, I don't know, that sounds a bit hard. And I mean, I'm not saying it's not hard. You still have to do the work. You can't cheat the universe, but the way in which you get there has got to be easy enough for you to believe that you can, step by step, day by day, week by week, you can make it. So we're almost done. Libby, I'm just going to invite you in to just say a bit of a wrap up then on this. About the program, about this particular week's focus, about anything you'd like to share.
Sure. As Tom mentioned, I've got heaps and heaps, guys, of resources, and this is an area that not only do I use in my profession, but it's honestly changed my life, personally and professionally. So I can't say enough good things really about living in a mindful way and all the advantages that brings to us. So please send me your questions. I'll answer them straight away. I love talking about this subject, as Tom will confirm. So if anybody has any further questions or wants some further reading or anything at all, just message me and I'll be happy to help. And the good thing is, if we can all sort of make an effort to share our experiences, the more we'll get out of the program. So sharing is a really big way forward.
That's phenomenal. And just the last slide I've got there is just kind of what we'll do is we'll put this up and we want to be able to kind of co-create this as we go along. So this idea of each week we're going to be coming up with just a way to talk about this so that it makes sense to us, makes sense to people that we're going to be interacting with. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to the guys there. Questions or thoughts or anything that in relation to this or in relation to anything else? I mean, obviously a lot of it will happen in the channels, but do you have anything quickly, anything you want to say, guys?
Yeah, I can say something, Tom.
Go ahead, Kais.
Yeah, so what I like about this framework is the flexibility. I mean, there is no 10 steps to follow to be able to reach a certain goal. What I like is like you notice your own things and then you create your own tools and you make it easy for your life. So just to say that. So I love it and thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, it's very, very flexible. And I personally think, and this happens all the time in therapy, being rigid is just, it's so counterproductive. And I find that the case throughout life, really. If you've got flexibility, it's much more appealing. It's much more workable.
And also, I think I feel much more comfortable about saying, look, I don't have all the answers. I don't even have all the questions, but I've done some thinking, and I've been downloaded some things to me as a result of knowing that I can do something useful with them. I think genuinely we're in a position where we can teach people the right way to go about creating so much a better world. And we can do it through entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is the way to create much more value by configuring things in ways that are more valuable to people. You know, I'm in a room here, I'm talking into a microphone. This microphone, every single atom in this microphone used to be in the ground. You know, we dug that out of the ground and turned it into value, right? But, you know, computers, I'm talking to people all over the world as a result of human ingenuity and reconfiguring atoms into a state, you know, arrangements that are more valuable. So that's why I'm excited about entrepreneurship, because we can reconfigure everything we see into ways that bring so much more value to people's lives. So thanks very much for being live in the webinar, guys. Libby, thank you very much for joining with me on this program, and I'm super excited about it. And it's 30 minutes. We're just going to wrap it up now, and look forward to catching up on all the follow-up in the channels. Okay.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll look forward to you joining us next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Bye.